Hey guys, this is Becca. Welcome back to my channel. I'm a homeschool mom. We have 3 boys, and today's video is what a day looks like for us in homeschool. So I know for me, before we started to homeschool, I really just wanted to get a good idea of what maybe a typical day looked like for other moms, especially if they had more than one kiddo. At the time we started to homeschool, we only had 2 boys. Elijah was in kindergarten, Isaiah was in the 2nd grade, and so I was thinking, how are the days gonna work for us? Teaching 2 boys at 2 different levels. That's one reason why I was drawn to the Simply Charlotte Mason curriculum, was because there's so much that we read and do together as a family that can be done with ages, 1st grade through 6th grade. I am just going to show you my lesson plan book and give you a really quick rundown of the day. If you know me, you know that the simpler things are, the better. I like to start school at some point between 9 and 9:30. Jude is away at preschool 2 days a week. So on those days we start a little bit later, but not too much later than 9:30, 9:45. So let's just say today, just for the sake of the video, we'll start at 9 o'clock. So let me show you the lesson plan book, and then I'll give you a rundown of our day. So you can see up top there, it just says week of. So these are the lesson plans for this week for us. And then one thing I like about this super simple lesson plan book is nothing is written in for me except for the days of the week. In the other planner that I had, there were already subjects written in, and I have to cross those out and put my own in there, and I just didn't like that. I like to be able to write it myself. So let me scoot a little bit closer so you can see. So Bible is the first thing of the day for us, and so what that looks like is just coming together. We'll pray for the day, just ask God to bless the day, help us to have grace for each other and compassion with each other, we would learn a lot, that we would have a love for learning, and then we open up what we're doing for Bible this year, which is the Action Bible Devotional. So today is Monday, so we started on week 23. So right there, I just have 23 or lesson 23 I wrote. And then we'll finish that up. On Mondays, it typically takes us just a few minutes longer than the rest of the week because we read the entire story together. And then there are certain sections for the key verse and questions that the devotional is asking. And what did we get out of today? What do we want to remember? X-ray vision, which is looking a little bit deeper into the scriptures and more of an application. How can I apply God's word? How can I apply my life to the story that we just read? Stuff like that. On a Monday, we're looking at maybe 10 or 15 minutes longer than the rest of the week for Bible. And for us, that is just memorizing the key verse from that week of the devotional. And sometimes there are other things thrown in. Like last week, we read about Solomon and all of his wisdom. So every single day last week, not only did the boys have to memorize their verse for the week, but we also opened up the book of Proverbs and read a chapter of Proverbs every single day. Okay, so on any given Monday, we will start Bible at 9. We'll be done roughly around 9:20, 9:25. And then the next thing on the schedule right here is history or geography. So we don't do history or geography on the same day. One day it's American history, one day is world history, and one day is geography. So just depending on what the lesson plan book says, that's what we're doing. Typically what history looks like for us, world or American history, is the family portion first, which really is just a book that I'm reading out loud to the boys on American history or world history. So I'll read that portion, I'll ask them for oral narration, and then each of them will grab their particular book that they're reading. All of these are living whole books, and so Isaiah will grab his book for American history, Elijah will grab his book for American history, and they'll typically read a chapter or 2, whatever the lesson is asking. That is pretty much the same for world history as well. There's a book that I'm reading to them that we sit down and listen to together, and then whatever living book they're reading for world history, they'll grab and again go read a chapter or 2, whatever the lesson is asking them. If it's a geography day, we're doing one of two things. We're either opening up our Visits to North America notebook, which is the region that we're studying this year, and we are mapping anything in North America that they're asking us to map. Right now, we're starting on the East Coast and the colonies, which is where we're at in American history. So the boys are labeling 2 or 3 at a time per lesson, and then we're going to work our way over west. So we're either doing that, mapping states, or we're looking at Hungry Planet and What the World Eats, which are 2 books that are specific to the geography curriculum with Simply Charlotte Mason. So we'll look at a family living somewhere in North America, what a week of food looks like for them, what mom and dad does, just a little bit about their life. And then we answer questions and look at differences and similarities, so the boys are getting a good picture of what other Americans or North Americans' lives look like. So that is typically geography, and both of those typically last about 30 minutes, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So that is next on the list after Bible, history, or geography. And then the next thing you can see I have on the lesson plan book is our read aloud time. So that is a time that we just gather here in the living room and just get comfortable on the couch, and I will read a classic out loud to the boys for about 30 minutes. I've mentioned in other videos that this is one of my favorite parts of the day in homeschooling for me. We have so many great memories just sitting down together and doing read aloud time. And then after that, we switch over to math. And then next to that is grammar. And I actually have those flip-flopped for the boys right now because as Isaiah gets older, the concepts, sometimes, not all the time, but he'll need a little more help, and I'll need to kind of focus on whichever boy is doing math just so I can make sure I'm not answering several questions at one time. I can focus just on math with one boy at a time. So let's just take Isaiah, for instance. If I'm working on math with him, I'm asking Elijah to do grammar and silent reading, which both of those combined are going to take about 45 minutes to an hour. I like the boys to read for 30 or 45 minutes a day in a classic book that's on a list that I let them choose from. And then grammar typically doesn't take any longer than about 10 or 15 minutes. So while Isaiah is doing math and I'm helping him with that, Elijah will be reading silently. And if I've glanced at the grammar lesson and it's nothing too intense, and Elijah can understand the directions on his own, and he knows exactly what the lesson is asking him to do, then he can go ahead and do his grammar on his own, and then I can check that later and make any corrections. And then we'll switch them. Then Elijah will do math, and I'll concentrate on math with Elijah while Isaiah is reading silently. And with grammar for Isaiah, again, since he's getting a little bit older, there's more concepts being introduced in grammar. So I'll spend a little bit more time with him on grammar. In case you're wondering, I use Using Language Well for grammar, and that's a Simply Charlotte Mason curriculum. We have loved it. I've used it since we started grammar with Isaiah. I think we started grammar formally in the 4th grade. 2nd and 3rd grade, we did Spelling Wisdom, and then we added Using Language Well, which uses the Spelling Wisdom Book 1. Right now, Isaiah is on Spelling Wisdom Book 2, and he uses the Using Language Well Book 2 with that. So I will do another video on Using Language Well and grammar, because I've actually had a lot of questions about that. So, but yes, that is what we do for math and grammar, and we use MathUC for our math curriculum, and this is our 5th year using it. I love it. The boys love it. It's very straightforward. We do a worksheet. Let's just say today we introduced lesson 5. So lesson 5A, B, C, D, and then we'll take the test on Fridays. If they need a little bit more practice, we'll just kind of carry it over into the next week. But typically, we're doing the worksheet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, testing on Friday, and then moving on to the next lesson. So, and again, grammar for us right here includes whatever lesson in grammar that they're doing, and then silent reading time right there. And then the next thing on our list for the day in homeschool is science. And that includes two things for us. It includes our nature journaling and kind of outdoor time. And then it also includes our Apologia curriculum. We're doing anatomy and physiology this year. So typically on Mondays and Wednesdays, the boys will do their nature journal. They'll go outside. Right now is a gorgeous time to be nature journaling. Everything is blooming in the backyard. Rose bushes and flowers are coming back, and the trees are blooming, and the grass is greener. So it's such a fun time to do nature journaling. We have a few frogs that hang out on our window right here in the living room every single morning. We have some lizards in the back. We have birds that come back every single year that we've just kind of noticed over the years. One of them is a red cardinal that shows up every morning around the same time. So that is what we do on Mondays and Wednesdays. That takes about 20 or 25 minutes. Sometimes the boys like to stay outside a little longer, and I let them do that. So, but generally it's about 25 minutes. And then on the other 2 days, we are doing our Apologia curriculum, and this takes a little bit longer. So we typically do it when Jude is at preschool. It needs at least an hour of our time. So each lesson in Apologia is broken down into 4 parts, and each of those parts takes us about an hour. So it will open up to our lesson and whatever, page that we're on. I'll do reading out loud. We'll kind of discuss as I'm reading. I'll ask them to kind of narrate back to me just in a casual way. And then there's always like a try this, which is some kind of, not always an experiment. Sometimes it just includes a ruler or a glass of water or whatever it is, that they're asking. And then the boys have a notebook that they'll do things on certain pages, like writing down cool facts that they learned that day. They do a crossword puzzle. There's copy work at the end of each lesson. And so they have the notebook out as well. But again, we're looking at a good hour to complete one part of that lesson. And then last but not least, because y'all know it's my favorite, is our enrichment studies. And we only do those on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I like doing it the last of the day just because I feel like it allows our day to end in kind of a gentle and relaxed way. So we typically do picture study again the last of the day. So what we'll do is just pull out our picture study portfolio. We'll glance over at the picture that has already been up in the schoolroom for a couple of weeks. I'll ask the boy the name of the painting, the artist that we're studying, and they'll answer. And then we'll put that one away, and I'll put in front of them all the paintings that are left that we haven't chosen yet. And typically I let them take turns, or if they pick the same one, then that's fine too. They'll choose a painting, and we'll just observe it together. And then in the picture study portfolio, there's a little booklet, and it has each painting, when it was painted, how big it is, if it's hanging somewhere special, where it's at, and then kind of just a handful of leading thoughts on the painting, which sometimes include an open-ended question for the kiddos. So we'll look at the new painting, read over some of the leading thoughts, answer a couple of questions, and then that goes up in the schoolroom, and we'll leave it there for the next couple of weeks. Occasionally, I'll ask the boys if they remember the name of the painting, and just have them look at it a little bit, but it's very casual. It's nothing too intense. And when we're choosing a new painting, that takes us, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. There's always a biography of the artist that we're studying in the beginning of picture study every year. So I guess the first 3 or 4 weeks we're reading that biography as well. But once I'm done reading the biography, we don't go to it again. We just continue to, choose a different painting every couple of weeks. So that's picture study. And then on Wednesdays, we do our poetry tea time. which we've been doing the last couple of months, and we are absolutely loving. But typically for us, before we started Poetry Tea Time, it was just our regular poetry study. We were studying Robert Frost this year, and again, we would just pull out a book. I love poetry for young people books. We have one on Robert Frost again this year. So we would just read his biography or a portion of it, maybe 5 or 6 minutes of the biography, and then read 2 or 3 poems. And then after we'd read several, I'd ask the boys which one they liked best, and then we'll start working on memorizing that poem. But when we started Poetry Tea Time, we put Robert Frost away a little bit because I was dying to read Shel Silverstein's Where the Sidewalk Ends with the boys, and it has been such a big hit for them. So we will just have tea and a small little snack on the table, and we will take turns reading a poem, and we'll go around the table 2 or 3 times. So each of us reads 2 or 3 poems, and Poetry Tea Time normally is about 30 or 45 minutes for us. So it's amazing. I will link a Poetry Tea Time video above for you if you're interested in it. And then the last enrichment study, excuse me, I have an itch. The last enrichment study that we do is our music study, but we technically don't just do this on Thursdays. I typically have classical music playing, whatever composer we happen to be studying that term. I'll have that composer playing from the moment we start school until, late into the afternoon. So typically, just like with our artist study, we choose one composer to study every 12 weeks, which is 1 term for us. And we have 3 terms in our school year. So we're looking at 3 artists per year and 3 composers per year. So what we will do is read the biography. Again, this only lasts the first, few weeks of the school year. And then after that, we're just putting on music every single day. Again, I'll occasionally ask the boys, what composer are we studying this year, or whose music are we listening to? And they'll tell me, and then occasionally we'll talk about some interesting facts in their biography that we read, or something they remember about the composer. So music study, really, after you get through the biography, is just listening to the composer's music the rest of the year until you move on to the next composer for the next term. So our second term is almost up, so we'll be going to a 3rd composer this year in just a few weeks. So that is our enrichment studies that are the last portion of our school day for us. Typically, if we start at 9 o'clock, we can be done around 12:30 or 1. And then depending on how hungry the boys are, we'll just wait until after our school day is over to eat. But of course, they are going to the kitchen and grabbing snacks all throughout the day because they are growing boys. So I just let them do that. So we are looking about, 3.5 to 4 hours of schooling. And with Charlotte Mason, the lessons are a little more compact. So we're not spending an hour, hour and a half on each subject. Again, the older Isaiah gets, the lessons are getting a little bit longer just because of the content. Math and grammar and a few other things will start to get a little longer than the typical, 20 to 30 minutes. But that is typically how it works for us here in our homeschool. And that is it, guys. That is what a typical day looks like for us. If you enjoyed this video, guys, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up for me. And if you've been hanging around here watching videos and haven't yet subscribed, I would love for you to consider subscribing to my channel to get more homeschooling videos like this. I hope everyone is having a great day. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Until next time.